bring forth our MLK history and a little history about the chapter of Theta. We have Brother Green, Brother Nixon, Brother Darren Nixon.
The brother Open said I'll be giving a brief overview, a little bit of history and chapter to explain the significance of our chapter in the city of Natchitoches. Please bear with me, I'm a little congested, so if I'm off here and take a sniff, I'll be talking to the comprehension. The Theta chapter of Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was founded on November 16, 1973 by 8 distinguished leaders that we call the Supreme Architect. And since its homecoming, the chapter has built quite a resume with a few notable acts in the world. Brother Humphrey Williams of the Epsilon Psi Lambda chapter in Alexandria, the chapter's founder, and Brother George Thompson of the Delta Sigma chapter played an influential role in helping Brother Williams start the chapter. Brother Garrett Fields crossed fall 1980. Brother Fields worked for Wall Street Journal and is the only brother on the long-term line at University. The long-term line was created to provide recognition and appreciation to individuals whose career accomplishments or service to their fellow man have enhanced the reputation and prestige of Northwest State University. The chapter initiated the first 2 Caucasian brothers around 1993 on the same line, and since the chapter initiated the 3rd Caucasian brother in the fall of 2012, who also was selected as homecoming king. Brother Malcolm Bim and Brother Ricky Lauderdale played an influential role in adopting the MLK Street in 2005, and the street sign was placed in 2006. Brother Malcolm Bim also played a key role in leading the efforts to install the group benches located on Kaiser River in spring 2007. Brother Derek Houston, spring 07, was the first chapter brother to become SGA president in the years 2012 to 2013. Career awards in 2019 to 21. The chapter won most community service hours and MPAT chapter of the year awards. The chapter has also won a variety of exceptional awards in the Southwestern regional states, which are Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. The homecoming court became co-ed in 2001, and they had the representative as members of the court, homecoming king, and Mr. Industry for over 20 years, with this year having Brother William Robeson, Brother Tristan Dodson, Brother Wayland Washington as member of the court, and Brother Ebenezer Agnew as homecoming king. On the state level, charter member Brother Richard Smith has served as the Louisiana District Director in the year 1997, and 6 college brothers have been elected as Louisiana Assistant District Directors. Brother Patrick Thomas, Brother Joshua Mitchell, Brother T.J. Gorham, Brother Nicholas Landry, and the last being Brother Luke Brooks, and the current being Brother William Robeson, Louisiana Assistant Director. Louisiana Assistant Director is basically the president of all the collegiate states in the state of Louisiana. Also on the state level, Brother Malcolm Bim held the chapter brother of the year in 2007 for the fraternity, and Brother Joshua Oliver was the brother with the high GPA award on the state, regional, and second place on the national level. The chapter is further proud to announce our first Assistant Regional Vice President for the Southwestern region, Brother Darren. Brief history about Dr. King. Brother Dr. Martin King was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. The second child of Martin Luther King Sr., a pastor, and of Bird Williams King, a former school teacher. Brother Dr. King was a social activist and Baptist minister who played a key role in the American Civil Rights Movement from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. King started equality, the human rights for African Americans, the economically disadvantaged, and all victims of injustice through peaceful protest. He was the driving force behind watershed events such as the Montgomery bus boycott and the 1963 March on Washington, which helped bring about such landmark legislation as the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. King was awarded one of those Peace Prize in 1964 and has been given each year on Dr. King Day as a U.S. Federal Power Band since 1986. In 1964, the Civil Rights Movement achieved 2 of its greatest successes. A, the ratification of the 24th Amendment, which abolished the poll tax, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited racial discrimination in employment yet. Civil rights leader Dr. King is undoubtedly one of the most renowned athletes of all time. Dr. King became a member of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated in 1952. He crossed through the Sigma chapter, which is the Boston metro area of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, as a young graduate student at Boston University, where he worked on a doctoral degree of philosophy. In 1956, Brother Dr. Martin Luther King was given the Alpha Award of Honor for Christian leadership and a call for first-class citizenship for all mankind. At the 50th anniversary convention of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Brother Dr. King called the event one of the happiest moments of his life, and said the award gave him, and I quote, "renowned courage to continue in the great and monumental struggle for justice." During the Civil Rights Movement, King spoke at Alpha chapters throughout the country, and members continued to financially support his campaign. In 1984, Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated initiated a campaign for Brother Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. in 1996. President Bill Clinton signed congressional legislation authorizing the memorial, which broke ground in November 2006. Now I bring up back Brother Rowland to lead us through national civil rights.
Thank you for those words, Brother Nixon. Good afternoon again. Today we proudly celebrate the life and legacy of a noted world leader and our fraternity brother, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yet we also celebrate the strength and the spirit of the civil rights movement upon which King had such an impact. It's important, it's evident not only in the Deep South, but even here in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Natchitoches Parish is composed of thousands of people of African American descent from 1772 to this present day. Whether referred to as Negroes, colors, or simply blacks, we have represented in this parish for over 306 years, and our contribution has been nothing less of meaning. We have deeply impacted this parish in the areas of economic and social development, religion, education, community leadership, business and commerce, and even politics. The civil rights movement started to peak in Natchitoches Parish in the late 1940s. Many cities in the South, including Natchitoches, wanted their fair share. The black residents of Natchitoches Parish wanted the white residents, wanted what the white residents were getting in the parish and in the city. However, signs of discrimination and segregation were evident everywhere for the residents of Natchitoches Parish. Some examples of those signs were colored-only entrances, rear door entrances into business establishments for colors, use of books and learning materials for black students in segregated classrooms, black residents being called names that were offensive and inappropriate, and even black residents being physically harmed without justification or cause. Something had to change, and soon efforts were made to help bring about that change. Finally, racial barriers began to move in Natchitoches, and they included the following. Religious leaders began to meet to provide strategies for change. Residents were called upon to reflect on those tragic incidents and issue out strategic measures to bring about points of inclusion, justice, and equality. Churches, homes, and workplaces in the community began to stand together and use resources to provide opportunities for residents. They also began to not only meet the advocate for change, but they consulted with outside experts to source in information to help stay connected with the movement in the South. For example, the late Reverend H.B. Barnum Sr. of Natchitoches had a personal connection with Dr. King through the late Reverend Ralph D. Abernathy and other religious leaders of the South. A functioning NAACP branch led by Dr. Edward A. Johnson was organized and started. This led to organized boycotts, voter education and registration drives, and increased voter participation. Their efforts were not in vain, and they also made and managed to integrate Northwestern State University. These efforts, I am proud Mr. War Williams, Mr. Whitney Young, Mr. John G. Lewis Sr. and Jr., and Mr. Scott Lewis were just a few of the names heard as resources to provide civil rights opportunities in Natchitoches and other areas. Furthermore, there were hundreds of others that helped to ensure that the impact of the civil rights movement would benefit Natchitoches parents. As a result of all of their efforts, blacks in Natchitoches were afforded the opportunity for employment in the parish and city government positions. They were also hired to top-ranking positions in the school system and were reputable faculty and staff positions and hired in law enforcement positions in the city and the parish. Because of their strong efforts of individuals in the past and even still today, the struggle for civil rights in Natchitoches has not been in vain. We celebrate the following accomplishments even today: having the first African-American sheriff, parish tax assessor, city council members, police bureau members, parish council members, school board members, and a superintendent of schools for 6 weeks who was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority incorporated. We have also had the historic pleasure of eliciting our first African-American mayor, and that of Ronnie Williams Jr. in Natchitoches Parish, with the first lady being a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority incorporated. To now having Natchitoches' first set of sisters lead consecutively, serving their respective schools as principals in that of the Davis sisters. My brothers and sisters, as we continue to honor the past, treasure the present, and shape the future, your presence and participation in this community are nothing short of a promise that the labor of our past is sufficient in the present, and we will perpetuate it towards an even brighter future. We will never forget the journey that has brought us to where we are today in America and in Natchitoches. There is still so much work to be done to understand, enhance, and protect our civil rights, especially when it comes to race and justice. So let us echo the laws. Thank you. Thank you again for that rendition. Now I'd like to call to the stand Brother Brady Gray to give the MLK speech.
All right, I have it. On Dr. King's most famous speech, the I Have a Dream speech, which he gave on August 28, 1963, in Washington, D.C. King stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and called for an end to racism in the United States before a crowd of more than 250,000 people. To give a brief synopsis of this dream, I read you these words. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you, my friends, we have difficulties today and tomorrow. I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day, out in the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. I have a dream today. This is truthfully